Welcome to AlphaCars and Ural motorcycles. My name is Dimitri, and this is 2018 Ural M70. And there we have a Ural Classic. And this is going to be a really cool video, so stick around. So 2018, the last year of the retro platform, and this is 2013, also happens to be the last year of the retro platform with the carbureted, no-nonsense mechanical platform. And each bike has its own pros. There are absolutely no cons on these two machines. Either one of them will work awesome for the right application. So what is the right application? We have two major differences here. One is pre-fuel injected, the other one is post-fuel injected. And the other main difference is this is retro and this is retro. This is not a difference. The difference is that the trim level here is M70 and the trim level here is Classic. So what makes them so different? They are different. If you look at each one, you can see one has a glossy finish, the other one has flat finish. That's not the main difference. You could have ordered when these were available with custom color, but the trim level is different. And this one is more of a utilitarian use, I would say, because it starts from a flat finish and then it gets into some differences. But before we get there, let's talk about the retro. What is so different about retro versus a regular Ural? When I say regular, that's the one that would have two-wheel drive, or the one that would be CT, which is still single-wheel drive but looks very different. So the main difference for the retro, whether it's M70 or a Classic, the main difference you're going to see right away is going to be the front suspension. It's going to be the 18-inch wheels, which is not immediately noticeable, but you will notice the front fender is much slimmer, sits right over the tire line, and then we have telescopic forks versus the leading front end suspension, leading link front end suspension. And by the way, these are Marzocchi forks. This is the best, one of the best money can buy anywhere in the world. And that's not just true for the forks, that is true for all the components used on Ural motorcycles. And then we immediately follow from here, we get into the A-frame. What is A-frame? A-frame resembles a letter A because it looks like this, and there's a little thing right here. So I know it would take a lot to figure that out, but that's what these are called. I'm sure there are other names. And then the A-frame is accommodated by a teardrop gas tank. And then we get into the toolbox, if you will. And then the rear suspension is pretty cool. It actually made to look like a vintage style rear suspension that you'd see on some older Urals and Dnipers. But this one, it's just the appearance, because the suspension still has it's an independent suspension, and it has the control arm, which is secured. By the way, no bushings there. There are dual bearings, aviation grade bearings, so there's no free play there. That's huge, and that's on all Urals, not just retros. So that's as far as the motorcycle goes, with the exception of one thing that I almost forgot, and it's huge. This is a single piece headlamp, which is a traditional type of headlamp with embedded gauge, the speedometer, and large lights and so forth. So that's a single piece headlamp. And then we transition, actually we can stay on that bike with the camera. And by the way, Ian is running the camera. Ian, thank you very much. So we have the sidecar. The sidecar frame is different. The sidecar tub is the same. And when I say the same, not only it's the same between M70 and the Classic, it's the same with all Urals. And actually, Ural has such a successful platform that it's been copied by other manufacturers. I was surprised to see one that's made in US that was made from fiberglass, but it still was the same shape. So the tub is situated on the frame, and there are these mounts right here. And then there are snowman style rubber mounts in the back, so there's a little bit of absorption of the vibration between the frame and the tub in the rear, where it's important because that's where the weight is. The frame has an independent suspension which has an adjustable shock, as the rest of the shocks on all Ural motorcycles, and but the sidecar frame is situated lower, and the distance side to side, the width between the center of each wheel is wider than on a regular Ural motorcycle. So that's big, and what it does, it makes these bikes actually handle better on paved roads. It can go off-road to the degree of, you saw me driving it on the grass. In the field, it will do very, very well. It's not something you want to get into the deep snow or mud or brooks or any other exciting, a little bit crazy scenario you can do with a two-wheel drive Urals. So that's as far as geometry of the retro. Let's now talk about M70 versus Classic. So the Classic word greatly describes that it is classic. It's been like this for many, many years, and it's true. Many people that don't know Ural, they would see it and say, wow, this is a gorgeous looking BMW. Who restored it? Well, this is not a BMW, this is a Ural. And they're brand new, not this one, but when they were brand new, it would be like, that's a brand new bike. People would be in the disbelief. They still are. And then the M70 name comes from M72, which was the name of the motorcycle produced in the late 30s when the factory was set up in, actually was set up initially in Moscow, and then due to World War II, all military factories were moved in the area of Ural Mountains. So that's where the factory ended up, in the town of Irbid, and it's been there until year 2022, and as we now know, it's been moved to Kazakhstan. But now these were produced still at that factory, and the M70 was following the original M72 name, and so that's how that trim level is, that's how the name, where it comes from. And this trim level came standard with this flat finish, olive drab flat finish. It had a regular Ural seat, standard Ural seat. We can look at that. The windshield was not standard on this bike. It has an optional windshield, so there it is. What was standard, which was great, it came standard with the spare wheel. 18-inch spare wheel came standard. And on 2018, you could use this wheel on all three wheels of the bike. We'll talk about that on the 13. And this is being 2018. It's a fuel-injected bike with disc brakes all around. And then the gas tank would be the same, obviously no pinstriping. The headlamp is the same, but being a 2018, it has no typical large half-inch indicators, because they're all integrated in the speedometer. By the way, I should have mentioned that sooner. Both of these bikes, at least at the time of this video, are available. So if you want to buy them both, check out the website. It is on the website. If you want to settle for just one of them, I know it's a tough choice, so we can help you make it. But at the time of this video, you can find the listings on our website under available inventory. If they're sold, you can still find them under sold inventory. We have hundreds of motorcycles and hundreds of exciting cars that we sold that are listed under sold vehicles. And so going back to the M70 platform, M70 also came with this, we can get the camera up here. So the M70 came with a power panel, which was up there. And this is the standard seat. And it did not come with that floor boards. I don't believe it did. The Classic, on the other hand, came with a lot of extra goodies. It didn't come with a spare wheel, which some people were fine with it, but it came with gorgeous glossy finish with outstanding pinstripes. So these pinstripes were done over the base coat, which in this instance was black, and then the clear coat finish was applied over the base coat and over the pinstripes. If you can believe it, and please take my word for it, the pinstripe was done in one single application by a person at the factory. They would start from one spot and they would just go and do it. There's no template. It is just done like that. And I still can't believe it, but that's what I was told multiple times by reliable sources. So all those pinstripes, they're done by hand. And from what I know, it's a one lady specialist. That's what she does. I'm sure she does other things, but pinstripes are her specialty. And that's how these are done. So we get that with Classic. We also get stainless steel trim. So all this is polished stainless steel, including the steering bar. And just to get this out of the way, there are a few things on this bike that if they included in this bike, but they were not standard, which includes the windshield, which includes the bumper in the front of the sidecar. The driving lamps were not standard. This tachometer was not standard. And let me see if there's anything else that I might have missed. No, everything else on the bike, at least from appearance standpoint, it's all standard. And then what came standard was what's called luxury interior. You can see the seat back is elevated about, I would say 3 to 4 inches. The padding is a little bit softer. This is actually soft leather material. You can see these buttons right there. The interior of the sidecar is lined with trim panels that are very nice to the touch, and I like them a lot. And then there was that slated floorboard that is in there. So that's great. What was not standard was the power panel. Those had to be installed. We actually installed them when we assembled bikes. And there's another cool thing on the Retro Classic. Check this out. Let's turn the ignition on. It is the reverse hand shifter for reverse. This is factory feature. And as you can see, there are threaded bushings integrated, welded into the gas tank, which then secure the stainless steel bracket. And then there's a linkage that goes to the reverse lever. And in order to engage that, let's start this bike. In order to engage that, by the way, this is a carbureted bike. You have to press that down, and then you would just bring this back, and we're in reverse. This bike is tuned beautifully. I just took the parking brake off, and as you can see, right at idle, cold engine, a little bit of uphill situation. This goes in reverse. And now we're moving forward. And here is the parking brake. Back to neutral. So, yeah, this bike has one other feature that was not standard. It's a hazard light, which is something that we have available on our e-store. We have a phenomenal accessory website, e-store, and you can get a lot of goodies for Urals and Royal Enfield motorcycles. So let me see if I have it all covered. The windshield with a stainless steel frame, it was standard for retro classic models, and it also came with the stainless steel tabs here and the stainless steel trims around the apron. By the way, this 2013 bike is spectacular, and I think we did, Ian might have done a video on this bike. Have you? Probably. Okay. Well, definitely check out the listing for this bike. We will have a link. You'll see it. And the tonneau cover for the Retro Classic was different because it had to accommodate the taller seat. And by the way, this height of the seat, it definitely made the difference for passengers. I talked to a few ladies that said, Jesus, that seat was just so comfortable. Okay, so that's the tonneau cover. This bike, if all of a sudden you're considering like, wow, maybe I should buy this one, it also comes with the bike cover, not only the tonneau cover, which came standard, and then of course they all came with a very impressive toolkit. We're not going to spend too much time on it, but it all comes with this bike, and also the original owner's manual is there. And there was something else about this bike that I remembered. Well, the touch-up kits, that's great. Yeah, I guess that's about it. So we're going to put that back in there. There was something else about both M70 and Classic Retros that made them different compared to regular Urals. It was the retro style around lighting. And I know we used to have this kit available. It the production was stopped during COVID time, but I think it's back online, and this is a great option if you want to tweak your Ural non-retro and give it a retro flavor. That would be a great addition. And as I look at these two bikes more, there's another difference between M70 and the Classic, and it's the seat. So right where we have the camera, this has a standard, very comfortable, but this is a standard tractor style, solo, vintage style. There are different names for its seat. And the Classic came with what is called a luxury seat. The level of luxury cannot be measured, but you can see that it has it's a longer seat, so it's definitely different, and it is more comfortable. It has soft leather padded cover, and the seat itself is different. We measured it, the width is the same, this portion of the seat is the same, but it has definitely a longer front section, which makes it more comfortable. On both bikes seats can be moved about 2 inches. There are 3 positioning holes. And let's not forget, the newer, the better. It kind of applies here a little bit. No one will argue that 5 years newer, 2018, has no advantages over 2013 just by age. Of course, that applies, and that is true. And this bike is also available on our website. But just so that if you're watching this video to understand what was standard on the M70 versus Classic, I'll point out some of the things on this bike that come with this bike. So if you do purchase this bike, these are the extras that did not come standard. One of them is this. This was actually installed by the last owner, and that's the little ammo box, and it's got the gasket. So this is actually, that's pretty cool. And then there is a Ural version of the ammo box. This one is really nice because it's removable. You can take it with you. So let's say you are going on the beach. Wouldn't this be perfect? A little overdoing it, but this would look good.
You could put a lunch in there.
Yeah, yep, definitely so. So you can put a lot of goodies in there. And then you can put it back on your bike, and you can actually put a little padlock right there. And you can also put a padlock here. That's definitely good for going to the beach. So this bike, I was looking for it. So this has an extra set of keys. For those of you that are seriously considering it, it has a full set of keys. And it also comes with an owner's manual that was custom fitted in, how do we call these types of things? Yeah, I'm calling this being obsessed with your bike. This is every page was taken out of the owner's manual, and it was situated in its own page holder, and then everything was placed in a binder. I call it like a really nice positive, in a positive way, an obsession with your motor vehicle. And by the way, the Ural owner's manual is substantial. It gets into it. I would call it a shop manual because it has everything from the trouble codes. This is a fuel injected bike. You don't need to have a fancy diagnostic computer. You can click the switch a couple times. It will give you a trouble code, just like if you had a scanner, and it will tell you which component needs loving care. And it's called Ural Engine Management System, Blink Diagnosis. So, this is something that it's pretty amazing, and it's on the EFI troubleshooting, and then you get into all the other procedures on the motorcycle. So that's essentially is a shop manual, which is great. That comes with the bike. 2018 owner's manual, the last production year of the retro platform. And then we got that full set of tools. They come with the bike. And guess who sold this bike? Check this out. UralNE.com, Ural of New England. Here we are. There is also a power adapter because it does have the power panel. So there's a 12 volt. And by the way, this can be used for trickle charging because it's connected to the battery. And then this is the 12 volt. So that was not standard. That comes with it. And the windshield, that was not standard. That comes with it. This is the regular incandescent bulb. I believe that's about it for this motorcycle. So definitely, please check out the availability on our website, AlphaCars.com, and that's where you're going to see all our Ural motorcycles inventory. And that's where you're also going to see our Royal Enfield motorcycles. That's where you're going to see an amazing selection of phenomenal automobiles and other pre-owned motorcycles. So that's all there. on both bikes I mentioned, there is a little toolbox which contains nothing on the Classic prior to and including 2013. This is where you definitely have some time to think, do I really need to open this or not? Because it will take about 8 or 9 full revolutions, which is about 16 or 18 movements of your head. And look at that. There's absolutely nothing in there. In fact, I don't even remember when this was open. We should give it a quick wipe down. There's a little bit of dust in there, so I'm not gonna do that because that's not good for the paint. We'll wipe this down. But this is the compartment that you have. And this thing is substantial. Like if you were here and I handed it to you, you would be like, oh my God, what is it made from? Well, it's made from a substantial metal. This is made from substantial metal. The fenders are made from substantial metal. The gas tank is extremely substantial. The whole bike is substantial, and they still made this very same way. So the way you install it is, if you do it the right way, it's actually very, very simple. So there's a lip, and you slide the lip under this edge, and you make sure these two go over the two edges. So it actually works out pretty good if you do it the right way. Here it is. And then now you're gonna reset this back in, and this is the time when you say to yourself, did I really need to open this? That's why they stay empty. But you can also change this screw to something a little more friendly with like a little wing nut, but then it would be inviting to, I guess, other individuals if your bike is unattended. So we're going to take a look at what inside the fuel injected retro in case you're curious. There's some stuff there that we're going to show you since we're diving into the retros. As far as undoing the nut, not much different, except, yeah, this one I'm gonna do by hand a little bit. Slide that out. That's a Kickstarter. Okay, so on the 2018, we also get nothing, which is great because there was a transition year. I want to say 14 and possibly through 16, a couple of years, when Ural mounted the couple of control modules and the diagnostic connector. They were all situated in there, and the fuse box. Nowadays on this bike, it is situated right here on the right hand side, which is much more accessible. It's the waterproof fuse box, and the diagnostic connector is right behind there, so that's a good spot for it. So I think that we thoroughly covered M70 versus Classic. We touched on the differences between the fuel injected 2014 through 2018 models versus the last year of the carbureted. And I still think that these have a phenomenal appeal to a lot of riders that simply don't need or don't want to deal with anything to do with sensors, computers, and software. So this is one of those bikes. This particular one has about, it's got about 1,600 miles, 3,000 kilometers, maybe 1,800 miles. And this bike is in phenomenal condition. And the drum brakes, when they're properly adjusted and serviced, they work awesome. And I'm sorry, the rear brakes. And the front brake still is the same 4-piston Brembo disc brake with a floating rotor. And the floating rotor is a big deal. In fact, it's such a big deal that high-end sports cars and they all use floating rotor, which means the rotor is not part of the hub. It has these bushings, so when the rotor gets too hot and starts to warp a little, and you're on the highway braking, the vibrations are not transmitted onto the bike. They kind of dampened within these bushings. That's really cool. So, and then the sidecar wheel has a drum brake, which is connected through the linkage system, which is a heavy-duty linkage system, and it's designed and proven by years of performance. I am personally still a big fan of this braking system because it is very reliable. In order for this to be efficient, you do have to use it. The problem is when I hear someone says, well, my drum brakes, they always squeak, they don't work as well. And I ask, how often do you use it? Oh, I never use them. Well, you have to use them because there are surfaces on the drums, which we call them friction surfaces. When you apply your brake, the brake shoes expand and they start grabbing on those surfaces. So if you don't use them, those surfaces get rusty and then they get rusted. And then when you go to use them, it's very unpleasant. It's noisy, it's not efficient, so you have to use your drum brakes. But the front brake is so powerful on Urals that you almost don't have to. But one day you will have to, and you better have them, all those surfaces in such condition that they work fine. So properly adjusted and frequently used drum brakes work phenomenal. I don't have any issues with those. So I think this is pretty much it. Ian, can you think of anything else maybe you thought of? I know we have a lot of comments on, and that's why we're doing this video, because we have a lot of comments on what's a big deal about retro in general, what's the difference between retro classic, retro M70. I think we covered most of it. If you still have a question, if there's something we didn't cover, or there is something you see on your screen that we didn't touch on, absolutely let us know and we will reply, or we'll do another video. For now, thank you very much for watching. Please consider sharing, subscribing, and let us know which videos you like the best by simply clicking that like button. And please subscribe. Thanks for watching. My name is Dimitri. I'm here with Ian, and until next time. So this is our bonus footage, and I'm going to be backing up. And when you're backing up, it's best to tighten up your steering damper because the steering otherwise feels a little weird. So here's the bonus footage. Mechanical reverse. Let's go in the shade. We don't want to hit